For the next part of my walking tour will be the LGBT Community Center, and this is their garden that they started. And then we're about to walk up to it. The original building had been around since 1998 and is the home to San Diego County's lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. The original center was called the Center for Social Services, Inc. back in the 1970s. It first started as a 24-hour hotline answering machine for people who needed military or LGBT counseling. Once homosexuality was no longer considered a disorder, the center provided even more for the community with professional, culturally affirmative mental health services, and continues to provide those services today. Currently, the center now provides more than 87,300 service visits each year. A current ongoing problem with Hillcrest would be gentrification, just like most cities in San Diego. And for Hillcrest, it happened because of usually straight people coming in and marketing and making certain buildings prices higher, like gentrification works, like we learned in lecture. And okay, this is my second stop for the walking tour, and the second landmark is the Hillcrest Pride flag. Today the flag is changed from its usual rainbow to the transgender flag, which is pink and blue and white. It's to celebrate Transgender Visibility Day that was on March 31st. This flag landmark represents the protests that happened in Hillcrest back in 1972 for the LGBT community. This landmark celebrates diversity of the neighborhood and serves to recognize Hillcrest as San Diego's official LGBT cultural district. It is now the starting point of the city's Pride Fest, and it goes through Hillcrest to Balboa. And then another thing in this part of Hillcrest would be Father Joe's Village's thrift store, and its goal to end the cycle of homelessness, which is seen like all across San Diego, and it's even in Hillcrest. By purchasing clothes from them, you could help to provide children and families with the tools they need to succeed in the future, and hope to help homelessness. Another thing seen right here in front of the flag would be the crosswalk, which is rainbow colored. The next stop for my walking tour would be the Hillcrest sign, which is a mark which was talked about in lecture about how everyone, or most people in Hillcrest agreed this is where they thought Hillcrest started. The sign was donated in 1940 and was originally hung by wooden posts, and in the past 6 decades has gone through like several renovations. The most recent was in 2010, which we can now see is an LED version of the sign. And then another thing in this part would be how Hillcrest has multi-ethnic food and restaurants. There's like Afghan foods. It's known for having a lot of Egyptian food. So the result of having ethnic different types of restaurants is that it usually means having an ethnic population. Another, I guess, negative part of Hillcrest would be parking is terrible, and that is a result of it being heavily populated, and meaning it's an urban neighborhood. Another thing would be Hillcrest is made up of lots of different local bars, which is known for having one of the most gay bars in San Diego, and also having lots of local foods places instead of chain restaurants. Another location right across from the Hillcrest sign would be the Golden Dragon, which opened in 1955. It became the premier Chinese restaurant in Hillcrest. In 2006, it was sold and renamed the Asian Bistro, even though they still keep the original sign, the original neon golden dragon sign. Something that had happened was in 2019, a gunman had went in and shot 20 times, but gladly no one was killed, and staff was able to return to work a week later. And I guess this restaurant is just an example of a multi-ethnic restaurant in Hillcrest. Another thing within Hillcrest would be these signs on multiple light poles throughout all the way down the street, and this is just to acknowledge some of the more famous people part of the LGBTQ community. They usually have this one's Proud Like Chaz, and they all have a certain adjective with their name, and it's just one of them. And then further down, close to the sign, there's another one for Laverne Cox, who is a transgender actress, which everyone knows her from being in Orange is the New Black. So that's just another staple for Hillcrest, and I think everyone, when they're in Hillcrest, knows these signs and sees them. A next landmark point for this tour would be the rail, which its original name was called the Brass Rail. It was an iconic landmark within the neighborhood, and it was Hillcrest's first gay bar, and opened back in the 1930s. It was a very popular place for gay people, and it was known for having law enforcement coming in all the time, demanding and flashing flashlights at people to have their hands above the bar, which I think that's what the name got from. They said that just to keep men from holding hands. It was relocated, which is here, in the 1960s, and they renamed it the Rail. It was opened from a straight Italian man, so I thought that was an interesting fact about it, and how it was a popular gay landmark and bar. For the last part of my walking tour is the Hall Sherman House. It was built in 1891, and it's one of the oldest surviving residences in Hillcrest. This house is considered one of the historic buildings in Hillcrest, and it's one of two Queen Anne style houses in the neighborhood. This building represents one of the many different styles of architecture seen within Hillcrest. Each house, even on just this street, they all look different. They all have their own personality. They're not like a typical suburban where it's like a cookie cutter house. So that's something seen throughout all of Hillcrest. I usually think walking around how each house is really cute and it's different. But yeah, so this is what I decided to do for my walking tour. I thought I want to learn more about Hillcrest, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And I think one of the main things was I like the different houses, and it's usually a place I typically go to because I enjoy some of the bars. One of my favorite bars is in Hillcrest, and I will continue to go to and from Hillcrest as well.